أعوذ بالله الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So this will be our first lesson in strategic management, and for the next 4 weeks I will be teaching you this course. My name is Armurjan Usama Ismail from Kenya. I'm from Kenya. So in the next 4 weeks we shall be covering strategic management comprehensively and in detail. Then as we start the course, it's very important to know what is expected from you. So number one, attendance is very important. It has some 20 marks. We have the final exam, which will be 50% of your grade. We also have a quiz, a research that will be 10%. Then we have a quiz that will be 20%. So that is how you will be evaluated in this course. But the most important thing is to always attend the classes, because if you don't attend the classes, then you're not going to be in a position actually to understand the course. So it's of the essence to attend the classes. So I've shared with you the course outline, and I've also shared with you the reference book. So during your free time, you can review the books and you can read so that you can at least gain more knowledge about the course. So that is in brief about our course, that is before we start. So today we shall be, because we are having only 4 lessons, because we shall be meeting every Thursday. So every Thursday we shall be covering 2 lessons, because we are supposed to cover 8 modules. So every Thursday we shall be covering 2 lessons. So our first lesson today, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, is about introduction to strategic management, because the course is strategic management. So in each and every course there is what is known as al-Muqaddimah. And the Muqaddimah is very important to understand the Muqaddimah, you know. And in Arabic, when you're talking about strategic management, it is what is known as at-Takhtit al-Strategy. So in our lesson today, this lesson, we want to cover in detail, like ما هي التخطيط الاستراتيجي وما هي الأهمية ما هي الفوائد ما هي الخطوات لتخطيط الاستراتيجي. Now, so these are the lessons objectives. There are some students with their video. Can you please put off your video? You are distracting me from this side with your video. Just switch off your videos. It's distracting me from this side. So by the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to define strategic management and explain its purpose in organization, analyze the importance of strategic management, identify the key principles and that guide effective strategic management, discuss criticism against strategic management and the implications, define strategy and differentiate it from tactics and operational plans, list and explain the components of a good strategy, describe the types of strategy, then akhiran, explain strategic outcomes and their role in evaluating the success of strategy. So these are our lesson objectives for this first lesson. Now, the first part is at-ta'rif. ماذا نعني? The definition and analysis of strategic management. So here we are being given there are around 3 definitions that we are being given here. So the first definition is by Chandler. What does Chandler say about strategic management? What is strategic management? Strategic management is the determination of the basic long-term goals and objective of an enterprise and the adoption of course of action and the allocation of resources necessary for carrying out these goals. So this is the definition of Chandler. So what do we notice from this definition? So if you look at this definition, they're basically telling us that strategic management, number one, it is all about long-term goals. Then number two, adoption of courses of action, tahdid al-ahdaf. That is setting the objective. If you're in an organization, what do you want to achieve 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Then number three, allocation of resources. That is, once you have identified what you want to achieve, then you need to do what? You need to allocate resources, because it is only through the resources that you will be able to achieve the objective. So if you look at the analysis, this definition emphasizes the long-term vision of an organization. So when we are talking about takhtit al-strategy, we are talking about the long term, not the short term. The long-term vision of an organization, which includes decision-making and resource allocation. If you are a manager, you are working in an organization, you will notice that managers, they normally make decisions. So when you are making decisions, decisions are part of strategic planning or part of strategic management. Then lastly, resource allocation. So there are three important things in this definition. That is, strategic management is the long-term goal. Number two, it is all about adoption of courses of action, which means what? Making decision. Then lastly, allocation of resources. So that is the first definition of strategic management. Number two is the definition by Johnson, Scholes, and Whitson. So how did they define strategic management? So strategic management is the direction and scope of an organization over the long term, which achieves an advantage for the organization through its configuration of resources within a changing environment. So when you look closely at this definition, number one, they are telling us strategic management, it's a direction. When you are in an organization, you need to decide what is your direction. And another word for direction is, what is your vision? What is your ru'ya as an organization? What is your ru'ya and what is your scope of an organization over the long term? So again, in this definition, there is the word long term, which achieves an advantage. What is the meaning of advantage? Advantage in Arabic, it means al-miza at-tanafusiyya. So for example, you're having an organization. You are not working alone. You have your competitors. So if you want to outmaneuver, if you want to be ahead of the game, then you have to do better than your competitors. And it is only strategic management that is going to allow you, to allow you to do that. So which achieves which achieves an advantage for the organization through its configuration of resources, allocation of resources within a changing environment. And this is very important because all organizations, they're working in an environment. And remember, this environment, it is not stable. So this environment keeps changing. The economic environment, the legislative environment, the social environment. So things change every day. So it is only strategic planning that is going to enable you to adapt to the environment. So this definition focuses on competitive advantage, miza tanafusiyya, and adaptability, at-takayuf. If you are working in an organization, you will have to adapt. If you don't adapt, then your business is going to close. So it recognizes that organization must align their internal resources with external market conditions. So as an organization, remember, you have your resources inside the organization. So your resources should be aligned to what is happening outside there. Now, the last definition is by Mintzberg. It's a very short definition. So Mintzberg is what is he saying? Strategy is a pattern in a stream of decision. It's a pattern. And so what do you learn about a pattern? A pattern keeps changing. a pattern cannot be the same. So it is a pattern. A strategy is a pattern in a stream of decisions. So Mintzberg definition suggests that strategy is not always planned, but can emerge from consistent decision taken over time. It highlights the dynamic nature of strategy formulation. So here, basically, the Mintzberg is telling us that strategic planning is a pattern. And this pattern, it is dynamic. It keeps changing. It is not constant. It is not the same. The environment in which organizations are operating keeps changing every day. And because the environment keeps changing every day, then we need to adapt. So in brief, that is the definition of what? That is the definition of strategic management. So we have three definitions. This is the first definition. And in all these definitions, there is the element of long-term. So the first definition, there is long-term. The second definition, there is the element of long-term. Number two, there is adoption of causes of goals, which is making decisions. Number three, there is allocation of resources. Now, what is the importance of strategic management? Like Mahi al-Ahmiya, why do you have to plan? Why do you have to plan strategically? Why do you have to think strategically? Is it really important? Yes, it's important. So number one, it provides direction and goals. So it helps organizations set clear objectives and develop a roadmap to achieve them. So strategic management, it basically helps us to do what? Tahdid al-ahdaf, to set our objectives, and it also gives us a framework, a roadmap of how we are going to achieve our goals. Number two, enhances competitive advantage. This is what we saw. Al-miza at-tanafusiya. Remember, it is survival for the fittest. You are competing with many competitors. So if you want to be smart, if you want to be better than them, then you have to have a very good strategic plan. So it enables businesses to analyze market conditions and develop strategies to outperform competitors. To outperform means to do better than your competitors in the market. Number three, improves decision making. So it encourages data-driven decisions, reducing risk and uncertainties. Remember, we are living in an environment that is very uncertain, an environment that keeps changing. But what can really help us in the face of uncertainty is what? Is this strategic planning. Because it's going to help us to do what? To make informed decision. Data-driven decision means informed decisions, which reduces risk and uncertainties. Number four, ensures long-term sustainability. So it helps businesses to adapt to changing environments and maintain growth. If you're doing a business, you always want profit. If you're doing a business, you always want to grow, al-numu. And this growth cannot be achieved without good strategic planning. So good strategic planning is going to enable you to operate for many good years. Then lastly, optimizes resource utilization. So it ensures efficient allocation of financial, human, and technological resources. Remember, in an organization, you have a lot of resources. So how are you going to allocate these resources? Strategic management is going to answer that question. Strategic management is going to help you to not only allocate these resources efficiently, but effectively. That is, there is no israf. So these are the importance of strategic management. Now, what are the principles of strategic management? As in, when you're talking about the principle of strategic management, we are talking about al-mabadi. Mahi al-mabadi. So number one, strategic management, it is goal-oriented approach. So strategies must align with the organizational mission and vision. So it's very important because in any organization, we normally have a ru'ya, the vision, and we normally have a risala, the mission. So when we are formulating our strategy needs to help us to achieve our vision and to achieve our mission. If it is not helping us in that, then that is not a good strategy. Then number two, environmental adaptation, at-takayyuf fil bi'a. So organization must do what? Assess external and internal environment to remain competitive. If you want to be the best, if you want to grow, if you want to achieve profits, what should happen? You need to analyze, you need to evaluate taqyim wa tahlil, al-bi'a, al-dakhiliya, wal-kharijiyya. You as a manager of the organization, you have to know internally what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and externally, what are the opportunities and what are the threats. And this is what is known as the SWOT analysis. You have to do a SWOT analysis of your organization. Then number three, competitive positioning. Gaining an advantage over competitors through differentiation or cost leadership. So one of the principles of strategic management, it helps you to stand out. It enables you to be smarter. It enables you to be better than your competitors. Then number four, continuous improvement. So strategic planning is an ongoing process requiring continuous evaluation and modification. You cannot plan today and sleep and say, "Halas, our plan is okay." You cannot do that. You cannot risk. So what they're telling us is that this strategic planning is something that is ongoing. You learn every day. When you learn, you adapt. When you adapt, you improve. So strategic management is something that is al-mustamirra. It is something that is continuous. Then lastly, stakeholder involvement. Engaging employees, customers, investors, and other stakeholders in the strategic process. This is very important because remember, when you are talking about the organization, there are many people who are involved in the organization. We have internal stakeholders and we have external stakeholders. So as a manager of the organization, before making any decision, you need to engage both the internal and external stakeholders. You need to ask them for their ideas. You need to ask them for their suggestion. It is only through that there is going to be the element of ownership. People will be committed and people will be motivated to achieve the goals, objectives, and vision of an organization. But if you don't involve your employees, if you don't ask them, because there are some managers, their system of management is dictatorial or autocratic. They just make the decision without involving the employees, which is very bad. So these are the principles of strategic management. Now, what are the criticism against strategic management? Criticism means what? Sometimes this strategic management, it also has some disadvantages. So there are some people who say that strategic management is not good. But why? Why are they saying strategic management is not good? So these are the 5 reasons why some people think that strategic management is stress, that strategic management is a waste of time. So number 1, they are telling us there is what is known as rigidity and over-planning. So some argue that excessive strategic planning makes businesses less adaptable to rapid market changes. So some people say excessive strategic planning is not good. Because if we keep on planning strategically, excessively, we are not going to be able to adapt to what? To the rapid environment, to the rapid changes in the environment. Number 2, uncertainty and predictability. Strategies may become obsolete due to unforeseen external factors, such as economic crisis or technological disruption. So they're telling us, even you sometimes you have good strategies, but sometimes there are for unforeseen external factors, because we don't know what is going to happen in Mustakbal. Because we don't know what is going to happen in Mustakbal, something can just happen غير متوقع في المستقبل, and it is going to affect our plan, and we are going to go back to zero. So we don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. Why are we planning? So this is the argument of some people. Number 3, resource-intensive process. Strategic management requires time, money, and expertise, which may be a burden for small businesses. So for big businesses, wow, no problem. But for small businesses, strategic planning can be very stressful because it requires some time, some money, some expertise. You have to call people with the know-how to help you draft your strategic plan. Then number 4, focus on competition over innovation. Some strategies prioritize outperforming competitors instead of fostering creativity and long-term innovation. So they argue that some people, they normally just have strategies because they just want to compete with their competitors. They don't want to be innovative. Then lastly, implementation challenges. Even well-crafted strategies can fail due to poor execution, employee resistance, or lack of leadership commitment. They're telling us sometimes you can have the perfect plan in this world, but when it comes to tanfidh, the execution, then there is a problem. People don't know how to execute. So you have a very good plan, but execution, implementation, zero. Or number 2, you have employee resistance. You are working with people in the organization, they resist your plan. Why? You did not involve them. Or sometimes lack of leadership commitment. There is no commitment from the leadership. They don't want to give resources. They don't want to support. They don't want to give the vision. So because of that, people are saying that sometimes strategic planning or strategic management can be very, very stressful. Okay. Now, what are the components of a good strategy? What are the components of a good strategy? So if you want to have a good strategy should have all these components. Number 1, you have what is known as the vision and mission, which is the ru'ya or risala. Then you have the goals and objective. This is what is known as al-ahdaf. Then we have the resource allocation. This is all about, it is what? It's all about al-mawarid. Then you have competitive advantage, implementation plan, and evaluation and control. So this is what strategic planning is all about. So if you're a company, you need to have a very good vision and mission first. Then after having the vision and mission, you break it down into goals and objectives. Now, once your goals, objectives are very clear, you can give the resources for A, resources for objective B, and resources for objective D. Then there is the competitive advantage. How are you going to compete with your competitors? Then you need to implement your plan. Then there is the evaluation and control. Now look at this. Example of the strategy using the Dahabshil Bank. This is just an example of the Dahabshil Bank. Look at the vision and mission of the Dahabshil. For example, their vision is to do what? To become the leading provider of inclusive financial services in Somalia. Their mission to empower individuals and businesses by offering affordable, accessible, and innovative banking solutions. So number 1, the Dahabshil, they have their vision, they have their mission, it's very clear, and everybody inside the Dahabshil, they know the vision, they know the mission. So once the management, they finish with the vision and mission, they go to the goals and objectives. So what is increase the number of account holders by 20% annually, launch mobile banking services, reduce transaction costs for customer by 15% within 2 years. So once they are through the vision, they go to the objectives. They set the objectives. And remember, when you're setting the objectives, it needs to be smart. Smart goals, it needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be accurate, it needs to be realistic, and it needs to be time-bound. Now, the goals, khalas, everybody at Dabshil, they know the goals. What is the next thing? These goals, to achieve these goals, resources should be there. So Dabshil will invest in mobile banking technology, it will train the staff, it will allocate funds for marketing, ila ghayri dhalik. So these are the resources that they will need. Then, competitive advantage. Remember, Dabshil is not working alone. They are working with Amal Bank, Darussalam Bank. There are a lot of banks that are competing with Dabshil. So they have to be unique. They have to give something that is not in Amal Bank. They have to give something unique that is not in Premier Bank. If they don't do that, then Dabshil is going to die. Then, so they can differentiate by offering low-cost, Sharia-compliant banking products, ila ghayri dhalik. Then they also have the implementation plan. How are they going to implement? So they have year 1, year 2, year 3, how they're going to implement everything. Then, as they are implementing, lastly, there is evaluation and control. And remember, we said that evaluation and control is something that is continuous. So the evaluation and control is going to help Dabshil. Are we achieving our objectives? Yes, mashallah. Are we not achieving our objective? Why are we not achieving? Then there'll be the corrective measure. So that is the importance of the evaluation. The evaluation and monitoring, it helps us to know, are we in Sirat al-Mustaqim? Are we on the right track? Or we are not in the right track? Now, on to the next part. So this next part is all about the types of strategy. Of course, we shall talk later about the types of strategies in detail, but in our lesson today, we shall just be talking in brief. So there are many strategies an organization can adopt. And I need you to think of a strategy like, when you're thinking about strategy, think like a football team. Like we have, for example, Barcelona, they're playing with Madrid. So Madrid, they have their strategy. Barcelona, they have their strategy. So every team is having a strategy to win the game. So maybe you will find that Barcelona, they are going to play 4-3-3. Madrid, on the other side, maybe they're going for the offensive, maybe defensive, maybe 5-3-1. So maybe Madrid is going to adapt a defensive strategy. But Barcelona, because they like entertaining football, they are going to do what? They are going to go for an offensive strategy. So even you, when you're in your business, you have to ask yourself, which strategy is the best? Should I increase the price of my product? That is a price strategy. Or the quality. Should I focus with quality? Should I focus with the price? So these are the strategies. So there are very many strategies an organization can adopt. So number one, we have the corporate strategy. So when we're talking about the corporate strategy, this focuses on the overall direction of the organization. For example, the Dabshil Bank in Somalia may pursue a diversification strategy by expanding its services beyond banking, such as investing in fintech solutions to enhance digital transactions. So corporate strategy basically means is the overall direction of the organization. So for example, the Dabshil Bank can decide to pursue a diversification strategy. That is not just to focus on banking, focus on other areas. That is a strategy. So diversification basically means you are not putting all your eggs in one basket. So for example, if you are doing business, you are in a hotel, you have a school business, you have a tailoring business, so you have different kinds of business. You don't focus in only one business. Then number two, we have what? The business strategy. This focuses on how a business, competes in the market. So here is, I have my competitors. Dahabshil is competing with Premier Bank. So Dahabshil has to come with a strategy to enable it to outmaneuver Premier Bank. You know? So for example, Dahabshil may implement a cost leadership strategy by offering lower transaction fee to attract more customers. Maybe Premier Bank is doing what? Maybe Premier Bank is charging a lot of fee. So Dahabshil is going to lower the fee. So if Dahabshil is lowering the fee, people are going to come to Dahabshil from Premier Bank. Then we have functional strategy. This focuses on optimizing specific departments like marketing, operation, or finance. So if you're in an organization, if you work in an organization, there are different departments: finance department, marketing, human resource, ila ghairi dhalik. So this functional strategy is all about focusing with one department. In the whole organization, we have one department that always performs the best. So we focus more with that department. That is the meaning of what? That is the meaning of functional strategy. Then growth strategy. This focuses on expanding the business through market penetration, product development, or new markets. So when we're talking about growth strategy, growth means an-numu. For example, when Dahabshil is in Somali. If Dahabshil wants to open a new branch in Ethiopia, that is a growth strategy. When Dahabshil wants to open a new branch in Djibouti, that is a growth strategy because it wants to expand, it wants to increase the number of whatever. Then we have operational strategy, focuses on improving internal processes and efficiency. Operation, it focuses with internal. How are we doing our work? So Dahabshil is going to focus with their internal operation, with their internal systems. How are they working? Are they efficient? Is there a need to automate the system? Then innovation strategy focuses on developing new products, services, or processes. So when you're talking of innovative, for example, this normally happens a lot in the mobile industry. Like the iPhone 1, iPhone 2, iPhone 3, it is innovative. Samsung 1, the Infinix. So you find that every month, every year, there is a new model, there is a new style of laptop, So this is a strategy that an organization can embrace so that it remains relevant in the world, in the market. So these are some of the types of strategies. Now, strategic outcomes. This is very important. Now, strategic outcomes. What is the meaning of strategic outcomes? Like, when we're talking about strategic outcomes, it refers to the result. It refers to the results just a minute. It refers to the results or end product of an organization's strategic action. So when we're talking about strategic outcomes, it refers to what? It refers to a natija, the results, mahi natija, or the end product of an organization action. So here, there can be 3 strategic outcomes in an organization. Number 1, there is the intended strategy. Number 2, there is the emergent strategy. And number 3, there is the realized realized strategy. So these things, they are very simple. I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use an example to simplify all these things. So when you are talking about a strategic outcome, look at this picture. So who can tell us, what do you see from this picture? Like we have the intended strategy here, we have the realized strategy here, we have the deliberate strategy and realized strategy, the imagined strategy. Look at this picture and tell me, what comes to your mind? Or for example, look at this picture. We have the intended strategy, the realized strategy, deliberate strategy, imagined strategy, and unrealized strategy. So let us look at this example. Through this example, you will understand those three things. So explaining strategic outcomes using a restaurant. I need you to focus more so that you understand these strategic outcomes. We're going to use an example of a restaurant. Imagine you and your friends want to open a pizza restaurant. You have a group of your friends. You want to open a pizza restaurant. Okay? So you plan everything carefully, but things don't always go as expected. So let's look at how different strategies work in this situation. So remember, number one, we have a plan. We want to open a restaurant, a pizza restaurant. So what is our intended strategy, the plan? This is your original idea, your dream. Example, you plan to open a pizza restaurant, serving only Italian-style pizzas and become the best pizza place in town. So intended strategy, it means innamal a'malu binniyat. Innamal a'malu binniyat. For example, if you say, I want to start a school business, I want to open, for example, anything. So businesses always start with al-niya, intended. I want to start, for example, what? Any kind of business. So that is what is known as the intended strategy. That is my plan. I want to have a very big secondary school. Now, our time is almost going up. We will continue after the break. We are going to have a short break of 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes, we'll come back to the class. Okay? So the lesson is just going to finish now because I don't have the Zoom that I have. It is just after 40 minutes, it goes off, then on again. So we'll have a break of, I think, 5 or 10 minutes. Then after that, we will continue with our lesson. Okay? So the lesson will go off any time from now. So when we're talking about the intent,